Okay, class. This is a demonstration on using Photoshop documents, PSDs, that have layers, and so we can animate the layers in Adobe After Effects. The reason why we would animate layers in Adobe After Effects is because we want to be able to take the artwork that the artist created for us that is already perfect and be able to do some animation to it, but have it be able to be in its original form at some point, essentially the final condition. So let's start. We're going to create a new project. Let's get a new composition. We'll call that composition animation, animating PSD. We're going to leave it as something for television. It's going to be in HD, 1920 by 1080. It's going to be 29 frames a second. That's fine. We're going to hit OK. All right. Now, I just so happen to have a file that I want to do this with. I already had it together. And it's called yard sign. So let me find it. There it is. All right. And we'll take a look. Oh, that's what I wanted. I'll hit open. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it in as a composition and retain layer sizes. You have a bunch of different options: footage, composition, or composition with retaining layer sizes. And we're going to make them editable layer styles. So we hit OK. Over here, you'll notice that it came in. All right, here's the actual composition. Here's a new composition that I just imported. And then here's a folder that has the layers. So I'm going to take the layers and go here. I'm going to take the composition and go here. So now I have this yard sign that I created, and it's over black. So what I want to do now is I'm going to take and create a new layer, a new solid, and we're going to make that solid. I don't like yellow, so we're going to make that solid, let's say, blue. I have no idea why I chose blue. I just chose blue. But you see that now I see the blue and I don't see the yard sign. So I'm going to bring the blue below the yard sign. And now we have it. Okay, that's cool. And I could begin animating it by putting in keyframes and moving it around, but it's all moving together. Now, this icon right here is a composition icon. You'll see it here and here. You can take and create a composition and embed other compositions inside of a composition. You can embed multiple compositions inside of a composition. And I'll explain to you why you would want to do that. You very well may be working a composition and want to collapse it so that it doesn't take up multiple layers in your main composition. So when you collapse it into its own composition, it shows up as one thing. Now what we want to do is actually access the individual layers that are here. So I'm going to go in here, and now I have the layers. Now I'm inside of the second composition. As you see, it's over black again. Why? Because the blue is actually inside of the animating PSD composition, not inside of the yard sign composition. Now, for the sake of just having something for my eyes to work with, because I'm blind, I'm going to create another blue layer and drag it to the bottom. You'll also notice that when I was in that these come in with this PS icon or Photoshop icon. I mean, all these layers came directly from Photoshop, and I can turn them on or off individually and move them around and animate them individually. So the artist that helped create this file, which actually was me, wants this to look this way. But me as the animator, I want to be able to say, great, this is what we want to be the end condition at a point, but I want to have a new start condition. So the end condition, where I want this thing to look like at 1 second and 15 frames, which I just dialed in, 1 second and 15 frames. And now my playhead has moved to the current time indicator. of 1 second and 15 frames. I'm going to highlight all of these, and which means I'm going to be able to actually add a keyframe to all of them at once, and rotate that down and rotate down the transform. And I'm going to make the position, the scale, the rotation, and opacity that this is the true end condition for all of them. Now, if I go and look, it should have given me keyframes for all of them. And what these keyframes essentially are recording right now is that at this moment in time, at 1 second and 15 frames, that this particular layer, station logo, let's see here, I'll click it, station logo, the top one right there, is located at 961 and 298.5, and it's at 100%, and there's 0 rotation and 100% opacity. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go backwards in time to 0. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the scale 0. Now, I've only made the scale 0 for one of those 100%. But you see that they both became 0 because they are locked together right here. The constraints proportions. So by the time it gets to 1 second and 15 frames, it's going to be up at 100%. Right? We've taken a keyframe, we put a condition in that the scale should be 0, and that at 1 second and 15 frames, it will be at 100%. And it will remain at 100% unless I add another keyframe further out in the future. But okay, we've done that. Now what I also want to do is I'm going to put a rotation in here as well. Now all I've done is I've recorded the keyframe, but I haven't put anything in the keyframe itself. I haven't done anything at this point. I'm just going to make some changes like that, and it spins into place while it's getting larger. Okay? And that's plus 213 spins. That's a lot, or 213 degrees is where it's coming from. It's 58 spins. So that's a lot. I'm going to make it minus 58. And the minus or plus will tell you which way it's going to actually spin. To make it spin forward, if you're going up to 0, to make it spin forward, you should be at a negative. To make it spin forward from 0, it'll be positive. So if I want to continue to spin forward, let's say if I make another keyframe here, and I want to make it spin, let's say 4 times, and let's make it 360 degrees. You see it spinning forward now, or clockwise, I should say, right? So, but I don't want that one. I'm going to delete that keyframe. So I just delete it. And I don't like 57 spins. It just looks like a blur. So let's take and make it something like 4 good spins. That says 3. I'm sorry. Let's see here. Let's get back to where I was. And actually, it should be minus 3. So now it spins forward or counterclockwise. I'm sorry, it spins clockwise, and it gets there. So I may very well want to make it minus 1. Let's take a look at it now. There you go. Good. Doesn't look like a big blur coming at me. All right, so that's one layer I've done, and I feel good about that. I don't think I'm going to mess with the station logo anymore. Now let's go to the IG handle, which is this right here, right? I want to have the IG handle sweep in from the left. Sweep in from the left. That's going to be position. As you see, the final condition is that it will be, let's go to final condition. The final condition is it's going to be at 1048 at 901. Those are the coordinates for where it lives right now on the screen. But we're going to go back here and record a keyframe. And we're going to just move this this position right here until we get to a new location. All right. So I'm taking it off screen. Now you'll notice that these little bumps right here, that's indicating that movement is occurring. So when I do that, and as you can see, since this keyframe is here at 1 second and 15 frames, along with the keyframe for the movement of the IG handle and the movement and spinning of the Hot 91 logo, they're locked together, meaning that they're all going to end at 1 second and 15 frames. I'm happy with that. I'm not going to do anything else to the IG handle. The IG logo, I'm going to change its position as well. So we're back at 0, and we're entering a new keyframe for position. And what we're going to do is we're going to make it go the opposite way. So it's going to fly in from the right. So it'll be a little crisscross. Now we've animated 3 things. We've animated scale, we've animated rotation, we've animated positions. Now we're going to take the word hip hop and we're going to animate that. We're going to animate that with opacity. So we're going to come here to 0 and we're going to click on a keyframe of opacity and we're going to make it 0. And I think I'm going to take R&B and I'm going to make end R&B and we're going to put in the keyframe here. That's going to be opacity as well, and we'll make it 0. Okay. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do something with Norfolk State University. Now, before we had the logo come in from nowhere, right? It was at 0 and it kind of flew in from in front. What we're going to do is we're going to simulate how Norfolk State University can fly in from behind. So we're going to take it up so large that we won't even see it. Now, if you happen to know the coordinates that you'd like to dial in, you can just dial them in. How about 24,000? That's big enough. Great. And it's going to fly in. It will feel from behind and show up. And all these things will be finished through their animation at 1 second and 15 frames. So we got the animations that we want. I'm happy with the animations. I guess that's okay. So I'm going to go back over. I'm going to turn off this blue so we won't see it. And I'm going to go back over to Animating PSD. That's this right here. And it has the blue because that blue is in here. Here's the yard sign and layers. And let's go back and see what happens. If you go back slowly, you see it's all moving at the same time and showing up at the same time, just as it did a second ago. All right, now I'm happy. But I could have just done that and been happy with everything just over where we were. But now what I want to do is I want to add an effect to the layer styles of the yard sign layers, and I want to do so globally, right? If I, for instance, was inside of these layers, I can only add the layer effect to each layer one at a time. But if I'm over here, since it's a collapsed composition, I can add the layer effects to everything at once. So we're going to go to layer styles. And what I like to do is I feel like I want a little stroke. All right, now I have a red stroke on it, which I'm not happy with. I don't like red as a stroke. Why they default to red, I don't know. I think I prefer a white stroke. So I'm just going to go and find white. And I got a nice white stroke, and it kind of gives me some separation from the background. And I think 3 is a little bit big for me. I think I'm going to go with a 1.5. That looks good to me. It's my personal choice. It's what I like. I like a little bit of a drop shadow. So I'm going to go to layer styles. And I'm going to put a little drop shadow on it. And that helps it stand out and give it some separation from the background. And I can go in and I can edit the layer, the style, the drop shadow style by, creating a little bit more size of it and maybe give it a little extra spread. It kind of makes it a little bit more pronounced, and the distance just a little bit, and maybe drop the opacity just a little bit, right? Like that. Okay, that's great. All right, I like that. But something, for my eye, I want to do some additional art to this, some other dressier things. So let's say I want to put a little bit of let's say a little bevel and emboss on it, right? And so I can go in here and put my bevel and emboss on, and I want to outer bevel, all right? And I want to take that bevel and I want to make it, let's say I'll make it a hard bevel, so it's kind of sits up nice. And using the bevel function is great. I love it, but people can make a mistake and do too much. You take the size up too much and it kind of does this weird thing here. You don't want to do that. But maybe about an 8. And now it looks like it's literally embossed onto the blue background. Okay. I might soften that just a little bit. And I feel good about that. I feel good about that. You can change the direction. You can make it a up bevel or a down bevel, right? It's your choice. You can change the depth of the bevel to exaggerate it. I kind of prefer about 85. It's just my eye, how I like it. I think I got it a little bit too soft, maybe at about a 3. And you can change the angle of the bevel, right? So that it can follow the shadow or whatever the case may be. It's all up to you. So now I'm happy with that. I got my opacity changes, my rotation, all those things. And I'm pretty satisfied with it. The next thing I want to do is I want to apply an effect. Right? Now, those were layer styles, right? Those were for layer styles. Now instead, I want to put an effect on this whole thing. So I select yard signs and I want to put an effect on. And let's say I want to generate a lens flare. Now, a lens flare, now this lens flare, it has this FX, that's a special effect. And you'll notice it's right here. You'll notice there's an effect. It's called lens flare. And that's where the flare actually exists. And the flare, as you can see, is static right now. It's sitting right here on top of this. And what I want to do is at 0, I want to take the lens flare and I want to change its position by literally going in and dialing the position I want. So I'm going to take it to 0. It's right on the edge. And I'm going to take that to 0. And so now it's moved here. This coordinate is literally 0, 0. And I'm going to put in a keyframe here. And I'm going to go to, say, 8 frames. So I'm 8 frames in. I'm going to move that lens flare from 0 here at the top, 0, to this location here, which should be, if I'm not mistaken, 1920. Oh, sorry. I'm going to move the lens flare from 0 to 1080. So I'm moving my lens flare to 0. Now at 8 frames, I want to move my lens flare to 1080. So now what will happen is it moved right here to the center, right? At 8 frames. But you know what? That's not exactly where I want it at 8 frames. So I'm going to make a change and I'm going to drag it. As you see, it's moving across the top of the screen, right? That's at 8 frames. Then at 15 frames, I'm going to move it from, I'm going to put another keyframe in and move it from here at the top of the frame to here at the bottom of the frame. And that is going to be 1080. And now here it is right here. And then I'm going to get to, I'm moving at 8 frames roughly. I'm going to go from 15 frames to the 23rd frame. And I'm going to move it to 0 again. But now I'm at 0, 1080. Which puts it right here in the bottom of the frame. And then I'm going to go to my end condition, 1 second and 15 frames. And what I want to do is at this position, I want to move it from here all the way back across the top and off the screen. So I'm going to do so by going back to 1920 and then back to 0 to put it at the top. And I'm actually going to move it off the screen. So I'm going to exaggerate it just off the screen a little bit. So the 2100, and then I'm going to take it to like maybe minus 86. So it should shoot across the screen. Now all of that happened kind of fast, and it didn't happen in great real time. After Effects tries to save all your animation at once. Now you saw it kind of come across. So maybe right now, the lens flare is moving across a little bit too fast. So what I may do is I may bring the lens flare in time. I'll bring it back. Now what I can do is I can take these keyframes while holding the shift key and move all of the keyframes at once. And so what I'll do is I will move all of them basically to begin. It'll start at 115. So now let's give it a look. So you see the lens flare is moving across the top and it's kind of illuminating the W at WNSB. And now it's going to move down. It's in the bottom corner over here. It's going to come across again. And you'll see now it's beginning to kind of give a little glow here. And as it gets all the way over to the corner, now it's ready to go across the screen. And you see it's animating across. And I'm moving this by hand right now. Now, why does it look so fast and rushed? Because my keyframes are so close together. So I can, in fact, take keyframes and move them out in time individually. And if they get more time between each of them, and I'm just going to put one, I'm going to put that one at 415. Let's put one at 515. The last one at 515. Okay. And we're going to put one here at 415. And then we're going to put one at 315. And we're going to put one at 215. Now all of them have a second to actually operate. Let's see it happen now. You see the lens flare effect is definitely, now it's a little bit more pronounced and easier to see. Let's see if we see it a little bit closer to real time. So that's the assignment. I'm going to give you this file, which is a PSD file, a Photoshop document, and you will take it into After Effects and just animate the individual layers. You don't have to put the lens flare on. I'm not looking for that. If you do, great. If you don't, wonderful. That's fine by me. You'll do that. The last thing you'll do is then when you're finished, you'll go to composition and you're going to add it to the render queue. Once it's in the render queue, it's going to show up here. Animating PSD. You're animating this particular one, not the yard sign files. You're going to give it the settings. These are the right settings. H.264 at 15 megabits a second. You'll give it a name. Let's say I'll click on there and I want to give it a name. Maynard does the Animating PSD project. That's the name I'm giving it. Okay? And you'll save it. And then you hit render. And it's going to perform it in front of you, but you'll see this line right here. And what render is effectively similar to Premiere. We call it export. Render is the same idea. It'll give you a little noise when it's done. And then you'll be able to go to the output module right here and find the file by clicking on that little line there. And you'll be able to play it and it's all finished. All right. This is the file that you will turn into me. You'll see it's 13 megabytes. So that's something that can be emailed or uploaded to Blackboard. Okay. That's contingent upon you exporting out a file that is 10 seconds long. How do you know it's 10 seconds long? Let's go back into the actual project, Animating PSD. If you go to composition, you can go to composition settings. Composition settings, the duration is 10 seconds. Right? If your duration is longer than 10 seconds, the file will be too big. So good luck. Have a great time using that.